Hey there, Variety here. Welcome to today's video in which we're going to be doing 10 noob mistakes to avoid in Tarisland. So right now we are up to, I believe, day 3 on global. In the first week of China, I played about 120 hours. The game tells me that anyway. And I learned a lot of things. I thought I understood the game from the TBT beta, but in reality, there was a lot of things that I didn't grasp the first time round. So this video is aimed at, giving you some information that I wish I knew when I was going through the first time, and some questions that other people have asked me, and I've combined them together to create today's video to give you a, a less stressful leveling experience. Okay, so let's get to it. The first thing I want to talk about is the dungeon shop. It really hurts when I see people doing this. So I understand that people want gear, but let me be clear when I say that you do not need to be buying gear to clear dungeons. Is it going to be difficult to clear challenge content without buying gear? Yeah, absolutely. But you don't necessarily need to do that, right? You can always come back to that at a later time. But if you open up here and go into the Manual of Destiny shop, I'm noticing that people are recommending other people to buy these items immediately. They're throwing their currency into rare metals and they're buying this equipment when it's still at a low level, that is not advisable. Okay, so these tokens, the best way to use them is when you get close to a raid, so a hard raid or whatever you're going for, you buy the pieces and try to get better stat lines on them. So you're rolling for stats, you're not rolling for gear. Because the thing is, see how these top 3 are unlocked? That means the dungeon, the latest dungeon I'm up to, can give me these 3. So tomorrow, these 3 will unlock. But that means I can get it from the dungeon. Why would I buy it from the store and waste my token if I can get it from the dungeon, right? It doesn't make any sense. So do not buy this stuff unless you're like running up against, a raid and you absolutely have to get it. Don't waste your metals and don't waste your other currency buying it. The second new mistake that I want to talk about is actually one that I did myself. So this is not something you're really going to know unless you play it on China. However, what's going to happen is when you open up your crafting, you're going to find, let's call them thresholds, right? So if I open up the emblem chest, see how I have a level 1 emblem chest here I can make? This is basically all T1 items, right? You got some blues here, but it's all the lower tier over here. As soon as people reach level 2 gems, level 2 emblems, level 2 empowers, so the moment that the market matures to day 6, as you can see here, day 6, all of the T1 items, so, all of the basic materials like, the linen and the yellow crystals, the price on that stuff is going to crash. And it crashes hard. Because many people just log in, they grab their gathering, and they just sell it straight to the market. And the price crashes. And because the price crashes because too many people are doing that, and because nobody's buying the T1 gear anymore. Everybody immediately wants to shift to T2 gear. So when you get to day 6, make sure you not get caught holding the bag with all these T1 materials, because the price is going to crash, and quite frankly, you're going to hate yourself for it. Number 3, transferring and empowerment. So when you put on a new piece of gear, unfortunately I don't have any in my backpack, but when you put on a new piece of gear, it's going to offer to transfer the gems, empowers, and whatnot. And that's great. That means you can take your stuff with you. However, there is a couple of important things to keep in mind here. When you empower, which you do by opening the workshop and going into empower, you're using a scroll to add stats to the gear. Now, if you sell that gear by going into sell and then breaking your gear down, it will give you the emblem back. So you can use it on your next piece of gear. However, if you get a piece of gear, let's say you bought it from the dungeon store over here, and let's say you got stats that you wanted, and you transfer the stats to your gear, you destroy your gear by transferring. And because you destroyed it, you can't sell it. So you can't get your empower back. So if you transfer stats that have an empower status on it, you're going to lose the empower. So just really keep that in mind before you start moving your stats around or deciding on what you want to empower. Number 4, wasted items. So I understand that people want to buy gems as soon as possible. So if we open the market and we go down to gems, for example, you'll see 162 gold, 180 gold, 162 gold. Now, when you go to put your gems in your equipment are going to want more and more gems, and it gets really expensive. I want to be clear and say that putting aside the possible challenge dungeon issues, you do not need to fill yourself up with T1 gems and empowerments on week 1. The content is not so difficult that you can't clear it without it. So if you fill yourself up with gems and empowerments, for example, when you're doing quests, I'm not sure if I can see it yet on global. So like the world boss here, for example, I can't click on that. But when the world boss becomes available, it will give you T1 gems. But you've already bought T1 gems and filled out your slots. You can't do anything with them, right? So if you just wait a couple of days, maybe 2 cycles of the world boss, you get a couple of gems just every couple of days from doing stuff like that. So you're wasting gold because you feel like you need it initially, but in reality you don't. Just save your gold. Don't fill up your entire gear full of gems. It's just not required. So this one is one that I've been asked about in the comments, and I've actually seen people not only ask it in the world chat, but also in my guild chat. So people are getting tools and they're coming up and collecting and just assuming that the tool's being used. That's actually not quite how it works. So when you're not wearing the tool, it'll cost twice as much stamina. So it costs 4 stamina when you're, or 4 vigor if you gather without a tool. If you're using the tool, not only is there a better chance of getting items, depending on the tier of the tool, but it only costs 2 vigor. So when you use a tool, you're effectively buying vigor because you're gathering with half the vigor amount. You actually equipped it by going into the select ultimate, and you go into here and you can drag things onto your bar in here. But if you go over here, you click on the weapon and see how it's got a tick now? Now I'm using the tool. If it's not ticked and you don't see this here, it means you're not using the tool and you are wasting your valuable vigor. Number 6. So this also kind of touches on what I just mentioned with gathering. But if you open up your crafting menu, you'll see your proficiency level. So I'm currently at 500. Your proficiency level is going to be needed to create higher tier stuff. So for example, here I need level 550. I have witnessed more than a few people spend all their gather by picking up all their vigor by picking up things and not using any tools. And because they did that, they used up all their vigor and they were no longer getting any XP. So for example, if I go to finish material, you can see here, I'm not going to get any proficiency, right? So you would perhaps better off selling your herbal and buying the elemental, even if you take a slight loss, because you need to keep your proficiency going up, right? It's really important your proficiency levels up. Otherwise, you're going to get caught with T1 skills and T1 materials, like I mentioned earlier. It's not something you want to do at day 6. So when you're crafting, make absolute sure you're going to get enough XP to get to the next level without using up too much vigor. Number 7, XP and side quests. I kind of understand where people are coming from. When they open up the map, you're not going to see any on my map because I've already completed them. But you see these side quests and you're already at max level for the day. And many people think that, hey, I shouldn't do the quests because I can do them tomorrow and gain the XP, right? Yes and no. So Tarisland, you have absolutely no problem leveling up. You do not need to save side quests. You do not need to save events. You will level just basically off your main storyline and a couple of things off to the side that you should be doing anyway. So when you have side quests, so you'll see the apostrophes on the map, make sure you go and get them, because not only do they give you things like reputation, better gear than what you have to go and do dungeons with, they also give you other things like a bag, gem, and other really valuable things. If you see side quest, go do side quest. If you see event, go do event. Not only do you get those items, but you also get reputation, which is something that you need for better items, and flying. So make sure you do all your side quests as soon as you can and do not wait. Number 8, tasks. So this one actually caught me. So most people, what they do is they open up this here and they see the season. And rightfully so, most people, a lot of people, assume that once you've completed all these for the day, you're done, right? No. So what you need to do is you need to go into gameplay overview. So in here, you're going to see other things. For example, complete the check-in mark. I'm going to get 200 tokens for doing this. It's a weekly, but 200 tokens just for going to do this. You're going to want to make sure that you not only go through all of these, but if you go into the season rank and you click on Adventure Tour, Lord of Conquest, or Exploration Herald, and then hit upgrade, you're going to see more quests in here. As you can see here, participate in 2 arenas daily, participate in any battlegrounds, Adventure Tour. These are telling me which raids to do, and this is going to give me adventure XP. By leveling up the adventure, you're going to get really good rewards like inscribed stones. So it's important that you click through the upgrade and make sure that you're clearing all that you can. Number 9, challenge dungeons. So some people seem to misunderstand what challenge dungeons actually are. So challenge dungeons, while they do give you loot if you have loot available, it gives you the same loot as an elite dungeon. So if I open up the dungeon interface, that's not the one I wanted, dungeon interface, and go to here, you can see normal and elite. But if you go over here, you can click challenge mode. The main purpose of challenge mode is not only to challenge yourself, but you unlock achievements, and when you unlock achievements, you get a mount. Why does a mount matter? Because over the long term, if you open up your appearance, when I find it, go to your mount, go to one that you have, and you can see over here, you'll get another ability slot on your mounts when you have 10 mounts. You'll get another one when you have 30. So long term, you want to collect as many mounts as you can. And there are various mounts, like ones from achievements, from doing all the challenge dungeons, from fishing, from a bunch of other things. So doing the challenge dungeons is something that you're going to want to do at some point because you want to get, the mount, but it's not something you have to do straight away. Like if you feel underleveled and you feel pressured into buying gear out of the menu Destiny shop so you can complete the challenge dungeon, don't do that. Don't waste these to do challenge dungeons. You can always come back later at a higher level. 10. Friends and Guild. So, you're not going to be able to see this on global yet. However, we found that when you go into the weekly chat, into the weekly rewards and tasks for your guild, on the China server, it had a bunch of tasks such as do battleground X amount of times, do raids as guild X amount of times. And I believe the reward was calculated to be like 1.5 million silver or something like that when you did all the tasks. It's true that the silver gets spread out to all of your guildmates. It's very important that you complete these, and you complete these by doing activities with your guildmates, which kind of makes sense. But the other thing I want to mention is doing things with friends. When you get into a dungeon with people, or you're usually doing content with people, add them because it's going to give you friend tokens. So if you go back into here and go into the store and go down into the social shop, you can see here is a guild store, the rewards you're going to get. There's another mount that you're going to want. In the friendship store, there is another mount, another skill, and you can also get some silver and other things if you want. So when you're running content with people, make sure you add them to get the tokens, and try to run content with your guild, not only to help the guild achieve the quest, but to get tokens for yourself to use in the guild shop, plus the silver rewards. Okay, so that covers the 10 noob mistakes to avoid in Tarisland. I hope this information makes your leveling a little bit smoother and a little less frustrating than mine was when I leveled up and found out all these things that I didn't know about. Thanks for watching.